Dhanwats Maharaj, we are able to hear you. Please.
We have a GBC meeting in 20 minutes. Om Gyan Timanasya Gyananjana Shlakya Chakshurmitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhakti Madhurya Govinda Maharaj was a very dedicated disciple of Srila Prabhupada. I believe he became a devotee in 1968, and he was the president of the St. Louis Temple. He was the president of the St. Louis Temple. And I was reading the letters that Prabhupada wrote to him while at the time when he was president. He used to the St. Louis Temple was really flourishing at that time. Every day I read at least 3 letters written by Prabhupada to Makhanlal. Prabhupada named him Makhanlal when he was initiated. And which Prabhupada was saying, "You are doing very good preaching, because every time you write to me, you recommend 6, 7, 8 American devotees for initiation." So Bhakti Madhurya Govinda Maharaj was the president of St. Louis Temple, and several of the devotees were leaders in ISKCON today. They joined in St. Louis. They were preached to by Makhanlal Prabhu. I believe he also opened the preaching in Berkeley and San Francisco. So he had the spirit of preaching from the very beginning. And he was very dedicated to following Prabhupada's instructions. So after being in America, Maharaj came to India. We got in touch with him about 15 years ago. And he made the Punjabi Bagh temple. Punjabi Bagh is a very beautiful temple. They have the deities of Krishna Balaram, Jagannath Subhadra Balaram, and Radhikaraman. So I believe he met Rukmini Krishna in Vrindavan, and Rukmini Krishna invited him to come to Punjabi Bagh. I think at that time Maharaj didn't have a permanent base. He was just traveling around. And when he came to Punjabi Bagh, at that time Punjabi Bagh had about 14 brahmacharis. We fell in love with each other. He liked the atmosphere in Punjabi Bagh temple, and the devotees were very happy with Maharaja's association. And we saw that he was always preaching. He was setting a very good example, very good sadhana. He had his Shilas. I don't know how many. He had his Shila that he would regularly worship. And he had deities of Jagannath and Jagannath deity and Nilmadhav. He used to do deity worship regularly. And he was always preaching. One other thing that we noticed was that he was very bold in his preaching. Whenever he would see the initiated congregation adopting modern techniques, modern dresses, he would correct them. He would chastise them. He was very bold. He was a bold preacher, and he was very straightforward. He inspired a lot of people. He was enthusiastic, and he used to come to my Vyas Pujas and preach to the disciples how they should be good devotees. This was very much appreciated. He had some health issues, and for the last few years, he had some health issues. In spite of these health issues, he went on preaching. He he had a lot of friends in Punjabi Bagh. Uh, Punjabi Bagh is located in a very rich section of the city, and Maharaj was so popular. He had many friends. One of his dreams was to start a school in Delhi. He felt that the modern education system is not so good, and he wanted to start a school. Starting a school in India is not easy. So Maharaj was very much liked by all the devotees in the temple, and they were always anxious to serve serve him personally, and he would correct them, chastise them if they made some mistake. And he would not hesitate in even correcting our congregation when he saw they were not being uh, too Vedic. So Bhakti Madhurya Govinda Maharaj, he was like an uncle to everyone. And in the marathon period, he would encourage the devotees to go out for the marathon. And he would always correct our brahmacharis and put them on the right track. 2 years ago, he was in Bangladesh. He had to leave the country regularly because he had to leave the country to come back on a new visa. That's always the problem for foreigners. So sometimes he would go to Malaysia, sometimes to Nepal, and this time sometimes to Bangladesh. And when he went to Bangladesh, he became quite ill. And the Bangladesh devotees, they saw Maharaj for the first time. They were so attracted. They looked after him so nicely. And the Delhi temple offered to pay the medical fees, but they said, no, 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 we want to pay. We want to look after him. So Maharaj was very enthusiastic, and as you probably heard, about a month ago, he had to undergo this major spinal operation. I wasn't involved in this, but the senior devotees of the Punjabi Bagh temple who were looking after him, they had a discussion, and Maharaj very much wanted the operation. So the operation was not so successful. So we all miss him. We were all very sorry that he departed. But as we know, the saint is present in the Vapu form and the Vani form. Vapu is temporary for everyone. Vani is permanent. So we have his instructions. He gave a lot of instructions to the brahmacharis and the congregation of Punjabi Bagh. And we will try our best to follow his instructions. And he left a very good impression on the devotees there. So, and he was also very jolly. He would joke a lot with devotees. And he was very strict in executing Prabhupada's instructions. We read some of Prabhupada's letters to him, and Prabhupada very much praised his preaching spirit, his enthusiasm to preach. and the fact that they're making so many new devotees in St. Louis. So I want to offer my obeisances, Maharaj, and we're taking care of his Shilas. His Shilas are being worshipped on the altar of the temple, and he had a Jagannath deity that he was very fond of. Whenever he would go to Vrindavan or Mayapur, he would take his deities, place them on the table, everyone could have darshan, and so there's some talk as to where the deity should go. So he was a great devotee. We had very close friendship, but we didn't spend so much time together. We used to meet quite regularly, and he was a wonderful example to the younger generation. He was one of Prabhupada's earlier disciples. He is in the first batch of 100 devotees who joined Prabhupada's movement. And devotees will remember him always because he was an exemplary devotee and a dedicated disciple of Prabhupada, and who preached the importance of Prabhupada's books, encouraged devotees to do book distribution, he encouraged devotees to be exemplary, good sadhana. So we have no doubt that his service to Prabhupada was pure, and we all come here for a limited portion of time, and when our term is over, we all have to depart. And he left behind a great message, and he was a very good example for all of us. So I end over here. Bhaduriya Govinda Maharaj ki.
Thank
One
you
thing
so much.
I just wanted to add one line. Maharaj wanted to take sannyas. This was years ago, 2010. And there were a lot of people opposing Maharaj. Some people are opposing Maharaj getting sannyas. But anyway, Krishna inspired me to do this service for him. We had to present Maharaj's case, and eventually the GBC decided, agreed, okay, let him take sannyas and travel around the world. Hare Krishna.